continuing lesson IN8 on nets and surface area. We're going to look at some problems here, page IN46, starting with number 4. So we're going to be looking at numbers 4, 5, and 6. So my recommendation when you're doing these problems is to start out with your formulas. So number 4, we're looking at the surface area of a cylinder. So surface area of a cylinder, we've got our formula 2 pi r h plus 2 pi r squared. Again, that will be provided to you on your test. It'll be provided to you on the iLearn test as well. So start by writing that, and then make sure you're carefully substituting things into this formula, especially anything that involves circles. Be double checking radius or diameter is going to make a difference what you're putting in the formula. So make sure, if it says R, make sure you're putting in the radius. If it says D, make sure you put in diameter. This formula, we just have an R for radius. So we'll just be working with the radius for number 4. So first of all, we need to get the radius. The 2 meters represents the diameter here. So first thing, and even though this is a simple calculation, we really should show 2 divided by 2 is 1 millimeter as our radius. Okay, very simple calculation, but we need to show all of our steps. So that would be the first thing we would do, and then we can substitute in. Like we talked about yesterday, you can just keep your pi for right now. It's going to make things simpler, especially if you're not using a calculator. So radius is 1, height is 10, radius is 1. And make sure you remember to put the squared on that end part there. So this part, we can go ahead and simplify the first part of this. 2 times 1 times 10, that'd be 20 pi. Second part, 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1. And then we'd have 20 pi plus 2 pi, which is 22 pi. Okay? That has just saved me from having to write down as much and from dealing with decimals and things. Like I said, especially if we're not using calculators, it's going to make things a little simpler for you. And then at that point, we would multiply those together, 22 times 3.14. And it says round to the nearest tenth. So nearest tenth would be about 69 1/10 square millimeters. If we look at our next part here, we've got finding the surface area of the prisms. So for number 5, surface area of a prism, again, if we look at our formula that's being given to us, we've got 2 times quantity length times width plus length times height plus width times height. So like we talked about before, you just need to designate what your length, width, and height are before you substitute those in to this formula. So on my picture, I'm going to go ahead and designate these things. So 2 feet is my height, 10 feet is my length, and 5 feet is my width. Again, length is usually just the bigger dimension compared to the other one. If you get those switched around, you'll still be okay as long as you're consistent with how you substitute it in the formula. Okay? Very highly recommend that you write that down next to each of your variables. Otherwise, you're going to get confused on which number is what as you substitute into this formula. So 10 is our length, 5 is our width. 10 is our length, 2 is our height. 5 is our width, 2 is our height. All right, and again, this formula comes about because we have 6 sides, 2 sets of each side, top and bottom, front and back, left and right. So we can go ahead and simplify inside the parentheses here. So we multiply, and we'll get 50, 20, and 10. And then we can go ahead and add those together. You can technically distribute, but it's going to be easier since we know what these numbers are to go ahead and just add those together. So that would be 80, and then we multiply 2 times 80, which would be 160 square feet. 160 square feet would be our surface area of that prism. All right, and then finally, if we look at number 6, number 6 happens to be a cube. So you're not going to get a special formula for surface area of a cube. So if you want to just go off your formula we've been given, like we talked about, in a cube, basically you have 6 sides, they're all the same. So if you wanted to, you could just find the area of one side and then multiply it by 6 rather than using this formula. If you forget that or want to double check yourself, using the formula would probably be a good idea. So in this case, our height is 7, our width is 7, our length is 7. We can't really mess this up too easily. So anywhere there's a variable, we're substituting with the 7. So we're just going to simplify this a little bit. So 7 times 7 is 49, and again 49, and again 49. Adding those together is 147. And then we multiply, which would be 294. So 294 square centimeters would be the surface area of that cube. Once again, if you wanted to go on your own without using the formula, you could say 7 times 7 is 49. That would be one face, area of one face, and then if you do 49 times 6, and then you should get the same answer. So this gives you an idea of how to work with nets and surface area.